What does a Titanic victim? Sleepless in Seattle? President Grant? President Teddy Roosevelt? And John Singleton Mosby all have in common? Why, they've all been to Clifton, Virginia. Hello, fellow explorers. Welcome to Clifton, Virginia. Today, I've been with some of my family and a friend, and we're exploring Clifton. The founding of Clifton is curious indeed. Traveling home from war by Orange and Alexandria train was one Harrison G. Otis from the Clifton Springs, New York area, which was a fancy resort area. Weary of travel, he flung open his window and stuck out his head, only to be greeted by the squealing of hogs feasting on wild grapes. Dreams of vineyards consumed him, so upon his return in 1868, he bought land from owner Mr. Harris, an emancipated slave, and planted his vineyards, which failed. Yet Harrison was a man of many talents and pursuits, and eventually vineyards would flourish in Clifton. He built the Clifton Hotel Resort, the Devereux Railroad, or Clifton Station, developed the post office, and became known as the founder of Clifton, named for his beloved Clifton Springs, New York, or so the story goes.
Famous people traveled from afar to this Clifton Hotel and Resort to partake of the Paradise Spring healing mineral waters and fresh country air. Among the famous were President Roosevelt and President Hayes, who traveled by train to visit. They probably had the Virginia Midland Railroad Guide in the Oval Office.
In 1877, two powerhouse men, important to the nation, rendezvoused at the Clifton Hotel Resort to talk peace. President Ulysses S. Grant and Colonel John Singleton Mosby, of the undiscovered Mosby Treasure, and also part of Grant's administration, met to discuss how efforts for continuing peace between the North and the South could be sustained. In 1987, the owners restored the beautiful Clifton Hotel and renamed it the Hermitage Inn, a French restaurant. Nowadays, Victoria and Stephen Trummer, New York restaurateurs, own the beautiful Trummers on Main in historic Clifton, born out of the Civil War. Trummers bring small-town charm with fabulous food and attentive service generally found in big food cities. Cool. There is a train. Visiting Clifton during the great unpleasantness, as YouTube's Jacob the Carpetbagger puts it so well, it was very quiet, and also we saw staff with masks on.
We got home.
But they said hi.
Yeah, because they saw your big smile on your face.
The Quig House had adornments and furnishings from New York, and they were the talk of the town in the 1880s and the 1890s. In 1876, George W. Tillett, along with other men who served with Mosby's Rangers during the Civil War, formed a Baptist church with services held in his home. Subsequently, they built a one-room church on this site in 1877, which was replaced by the present church in 1910. This building was built as a general mercantile store, and through the years, it's been occupied as a saloon, a bakery, grocery, pool hall, cabinet, and church. An addition was added in 1926 for a barber shop. The building was completely restored in 1965. This is the Harris House, built in 1830 by the Harris family and later acquired by Thomas More of Williamsburg. It is one of the two oldest houses in Clifton. It is original in every detail and contains a sick room with its outside entrance. that was so common during that period. In 1900, huckster George and his wife Inez lived here during the Prohibition and supplied illegal hooch for their boarders and discreet customers. The Kidwell House of 1890. Built by A.J. Kidwell. He was the town blacksmith, a prominent citizen and member of the first town council in 1902. This is the Huckville House from 1902, who was built by H. Longley. Oscar Woody, who was a member of the railroad and Sea Postal Services, bought the house in 1910. He was on duty on the Titanic when she went down on his 41st birthday. He was buried at sea on April 24th, 1912. Mr. Oscar Scott Woody was born in Roxborough, North Carolina on April 15th of 1871. He and his family lived in Holloway's Pearson County, North Carolina, and by the early 1890s, he was working for the railroad between Greensboro, North Carolina and Washington, D.C. He later moved to New York City in 1909 when he was put into the Marine Service. In 1910, he married Leah M. Bullard of Dallas, Texas. They had a holiday home right here in Clifton, Virginia, which they considered their residency because they spent long periods of time there when he was not working. He traveled to Europe and was living in Plymouth when he was instructed to join the Titanic on her maiden voyage. On April the 10th of 1912, he was there on the Titanic as part of the postal group. And on the day the Titanic sank, he was celebrating his 41st birthday. While the Titanic was sinking and water was rising up above their ankles, they struggled to bring some 200 sacks of mail up to a higher deck from the flooding mailrooms, hoping to get them on board a lifeboat. Mr. Woody died in the sinking. On the Titanic, Mr. O.S. Woody, son of Mrs. John F. Woody, a native of this county, was on the ill-fated steamer Titanic. His mother has not been able to learn anything definitive as to his fate, but it is feared that he was lost. He was a mail clerk on this vessel. I was humbled as I researched and learned about Oscar Woody from Clifton, Virginia. He is hailed as a hero and is memorialized in his home state of North Carolina, as well as the United States government and the Postal Service. This is the Clifton Primitive Baptist Church from 1871. In 1863, during the Civil War, William Beckwith died and left 200 acres of property to his slaves, whom by his detailed will were freed. In 1869, the former slaves, including Mr. William and Mrs. Harriet Harris, mentioned at the beginning of this video, and their children formed the club-run Primitive Baptist Church Association and erected the church. Inside are original furnishings, including a well-crafted simple altar, handmade pews, and a pot-bellied stove. The pews were designed and handmade by the late William E. Beckwith, grandson of the original founder and majority landowner of Clifton. The first elder at the church was John Bell. Elder Lorenzo Vaughn was the last serving elder and pastor. His wife was Martha. In 2007, Pastor Vaughn was named the new Lord Fairfax by Supervisor Michael Frey. He was an active and dedicated citizen of Centerville. He passed away January 21st, 2011. Although owned by the Cub-Run Primitive Baptist Church Association, the church is maintained by the Clifton Betterment Association and is open for weddings and occasional worship services. This is the town park, a space for community and family fun established in 1972. Community events have always been part of Clifton. As I researched the history of Clifton, I came across a curious and shocking tragedy from September of 1913. Steam-powered merry-go-rounds, or carousels, were in their heyday from about 1880 to 1930 as the defining device of American amusement. Carnivals traveled by train to small towns all across the USA. One such carnival, I surmise, came to bring joy to the Clifton residents, only to end in death and disbelief for the community. I will read from the Manassas Journal of September 12, 1913. Clarence Lindamood caught in cable of merry-go-round Tuesday night. The merry-go-round will bring pleasure no longer to the little boys and girls of Clifton, for last Tuesday, September 2nd, 1913 evening, it cost the life of one of their number. Little Clarence Lindamood was enjoying the hobby horses to the full of his 5.5 years when he was caught in the cable from the engine of the machine, carried him swiftly up to the boiler. And that was the end of it. The terrified onlookers were powerless to save him, and all was over before the machinery could be stopped. Little Clarence was a son of Charles Lindamood, foreman of the Bull Run Soapstone Company. A great number of sorrowing friends attended the funeral Wednesday afternoon, and sympathy of the entire community goes out to the bereaved family. In my research, I found a R.S. Lindamood was president of the Lakeside Amusement Corporation, which operated the largest park in the state of Virginia. He had the Lakeside Park, Salem, Virginia, which operated for 110 years. Could this R.S. Lindamood be related to little Clarence Lindamood? Did he arrange for the carnival for Clifton? We know R.S. Lindamood carried on in the amusement industry, for the Big ELI News of January 1927 says he has a number 12 Big Eli Ferris wheel in Lakeside Park, Roanoke, Virginia. It is a puzzlement for me as of now. Perhaps you can shed some light upon this mystery. Comment below. And the horse hippie is temporarily closed. I will leave you with this last curious story about Clifton, Virginia, having to do with the 1906 Great Northern Virginia Elephant Hunt. Carnivals and circuses were big business in the early 1900s. Luna Park was being built in Arlington County, Virginia. The greatest animal act on earth was to arrive at Alexandria from New York on August 19, 1906, the Barlow's elephants. Tommy and 3 females, Queenie, Annie, and Jenny. August 20th was a great triumph at Luna Park, but the elephants did not want to stay. So, on the 21st at 7:30 a.m., the elephants made their escape while shrieks and screams filled the air. A $500 reward was posted for the elephants. Northern Virginians were woefully sorry in their ability to capture elephants. Annie and Tommy were captured within 3 days, but Queenie and Jenny were out there trampling the crops and scattering livestock. Jenny was then captured by Pawnee Bill, legendary proprietor of Pawnee Bill's Wild West Show, and his men. Queenie was followed by farmers from Bailey's Crossroads, and they chased her for 7 miles and cornered her near Clifton. Mr. Barlow arrived the 8th and last day of the elephant hunt to find the farmers had stoned, beaten, and abused Queenie to where she heard Barlow's voice. She went to him. She was led to the Clifton Railroad Station and took a train back to Luna Park. As Pawnee Bill said in an interview, "I've been in a balloon from Paris to Belgium, and I thought it was my most unusual experience, but that is beaten to a standstill by the Virginia elephant hunt. Yes, one of the most bizarre incidents in local history is recalled only on the fading pages of century-old newspapers, and now you've heard about it." I hope you enjoyed this first video about the curious history and tour of Clifton, Virginia. There is so much more to see and learn. Thank you for taking time to watch. If you like this video, please like and subscribe. And remember, you are never too old to forever explore. See you in the next video.